Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
Jay, we got some very big news minutes before we went on air tonight. And the only really appropriate reaction to that news is...
Yeah, a good Nelson ha-ha with a point is very good. Yes, breaking news. Democrats, with a D, gain a congressional seat in Alaska, of all places, during their special election, with Mary Patola beating Sarah Palin 51.5% to 48.5% in their first ranked choice voting election. You love to see it. You love to see it.
Look, ranked choice voting is the best way to prevent psychopaths from holding elected offices.
That is correct. Yeah.
Because the reason why Mary Patola won this election is because the other Republican that was in the running, I don't remember his name, but basically only 50% of his voters had Palin as their second choice.
Yep.
And the rest of them had Pelota on there instead.
Yeah. Patola had 29% of voters who went for Nick Begich went to her. So yeah, she scored 29. That's pretty good. Yes. I mean, listen, it's ranked choice voting is great in a lot of ways, and everyone should really, if you don't understand how it works, you should look into it. I'm not going to go through the full explanation here, but you should look into it, because one of the things that also helps with is allowing people to really vote for the person they really want, but also having a backup, right? So it stops the idea of, oh, I got to vote for Joe Biden because he's the safe candidate, right? Like, you could put Joe Biden down as your second choice, but if you really want Bernie Sanders or whatever, let's say, you go with Bernie, like, this is my guy, but just in case the shit don't work out with Bernie, like, I still make sure that I'm getting the team in, or someone who is representative of my team. And look, that helps people to vote. That eliminates the idea of like, well, I can't vote for Bernie because I know Bernie's likely not going to win, so I feel like I'm just wasting a vote. Like, there is no wasted vote, right? Like, to me, ranked choice voting eliminates the fight between, like, it kind of eliminates the fight of the primaries where you're like trying to kill each other kind of thing. Like, you don't need to do that anymore. You can just be like, here's my number one, here's my number two, or, 1, 2, and 3 or whatever, and then move on from there. If your person doesn't win, votes, if they get eliminated, whatever the threshold is, then they get eliminated, you move up to your second one. If they get eliminated, you move up.
And your vote at the end of the day ends up mattering.
Yes, ultimately, everyone's
regardless, vote. Regardless of who ends up winning or not, like, your vote counts. Like, your vote is significant. You're not pulling the Kodos and throwing your vote away by voting for a third party. And that's also a good way that third parties
throw your vote away.
Third parties can get a foothold in these two politics, in these two party races, by having ranked choice voting as well. Because if you have a third party candidate that, let's say, pulls in, if ranked choice is there and people know that they have a safety net, they might be more inclined to make that initial vote for a third party candidate. And even if third party candidate doesn't win, like, getting 15%, 20% of that initial vote, that helps build a foothold. That helps build, a platform that you can then run on the next.
Right. Because if you saw, this is just just a regular example here, but like, if you saw a third party person ratchet up 20, 25% of the vote, you might be like, oh shit, they really have a chance. Like, they have a chance to really make a real run for this. Maybe let's say they're the Green Party or whatever, but like, maybe not this person, but like, the Green Party's got a chance next time. Like, all right, let's keep going. And like you said, you start to build a foothold, and then they start to actually be a real competitive choice versus 5 people voting for them, not 5%, but like 5 people voting for them, because they know they have no chance whatsoever. And if I vote for whatever Green Party candidate, I'm just basically giving away a vote to Republicans, let's say, depending on where you are.
And it helps shift the big parties more towards positions that you want them to land on. Because again, if you see that, a third party candidate has 20% of the vote, parties aren't going to look at that and be like, oh, well, we'll be their second choice and no worry about it. They're going to be like, oh, what can we do to make sure we get those votes the first time and get the initial voting? So it's all good. I haven't seen anyone make a good argument against ranked choice voting. It's kind of like, a good argument for the Electoral College. It just doesn't really exist at all.
Right. No, there's
anymore.
Well, here's the thing, Brad. As you say that you have not seen an argument against ranked choice voting.
Well, we're right that we have this race. So
we have this race, and you can guarantee by week's end. I said that if Republicans have if they have their druthers, this will be the first and last time you see ranked choice voting in Alaska. I would not be surprised if immediately within a week or two you get legislation to knock down ranked choice voting and go back to how it was in Alaska by a Republican within 2 weeks. I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
I think they will at least wait until they have the general election. Like the general election, they'll see how it shakes out then, and if she hangs on to the seat in the general, because again, this was just a special election that she won. But if she hangs on to it in the general, then yes,
we gotta get this woman the fuck out of here.
Now,
we gotta get them all.
That being said, Republican that's the lesson they will take from this situation. The lesson they should take from this situation is stop allowing nutters to run under your party, because had Sarah Palin
that's the actual lesson
not been running, Nick Begich would have won easily. He would have won going away. It would not have even been a problem.
Yep. But they can't help themselves. No. They can't help themselves. But okay, allow me to be fair to the Republican Party for a second. It's not about them running nutters. There's just too many nutters they've taken over. They can't stop them because
that is their constituency, right?
Right. Now. There's a constituency, and that's everyone who's running, right? Because Sarah Palin was a prototype. Never forget, which is the wildest part of her losing, right? Yeah. This is her time, right? With the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and the Lauren Boeberts, they're all copies of Sarah Palin. I mean, Lauren Boebert, quite literally looks like a copy of Sarah Palin. It's kind of crazy. She's just the new model, right? Because, Sarah Palin is aging like an old leather bag. But that's what stupidity and hate does.
And Andy was sharing Willem Dafoe memes with Sarah Palin's face on top, and I gotta tell you, it's unsettlingly uncanny.
Yeah, I'm somewhat of a failure myself, which is fucking great. So, look, they can't help themselves, and the lunatics are taking over the asylum, right? And there was a really good point I saw made by someone this week that if Trump doesn't win in 2024 or doesn't run, depending on if he'll be able to, fingers crossed.
Eugene Debs ran from a jail cell, Jay. It's fine. You could totally do it.
Well, no, I'm more apt to believe that he will be barred from running.
Yes.
Jail. Well, that would just be the fucking icing on the cake, as far as I'm concerned. But if he doesn't win or doesn't run in 2024, and these kind of lunatics, the prototypical Sarah Palin copies and all this other shit, if they do get into office, and I'm not even talking about just more of them, not even talking about whether they win the House or the Senate, but just more of them, there is a decent chance that these people will not be able to be contained, and that they will not want to work with the last old school, I won't even say reasonable, but old school Republicans, right? And I think there is a chance that they're just you know what, fuck this party. We're going to do our own thing. Because they are so insanely convinced that they are correct, and that because it's a cult at this point. It's like a religion, right? And I'm not trying to shit on anybody's religion, but it is, for them, it's a religion. They don't see the big lie as just a strategic thing, the old school Republicans are using it, right? Lindsey Graham don't believe any of this shit, right? He's not an idiot, right? He's just in it for more power, for more access, to feel important. Like, he quite literally says that, which is pathetic as fuck. Like, he's in it for that. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, they're in it because they believe it. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a true believer, right? So I don't think it's possible for them to take a sort of like a nuanced perspective. Like, they don't have that. They don't have that ability.
I don't think they even know what the word nuance means if you ask them to define it.
I know they don't. It is impossible to believe that. Like, crazy old mundane words like espionage, right? But, I think there's a decent chance that they're just like, yeah, fuck this party. Like, let's just do our own thing. Like, and I think that's like, for the first time, that feels very real, like a very real possibility, especially if they're leaderless, right? Because if Trump comes in, he's the leader of the Republican Party, they stay. But if he's not there, they just become the party of Trump. They just are just like this rudderless party. I don't know that they're smart enough and strategic enough to stick around.
The problem though with that idea is that whether Trump is running or not, he's still going to be there. Like we're going to have to deal with him being in Republican Party politics until he's dead. Like that's literally the only thing that will separate him from, being in our lives, unfortunately. So he will always be kind of the rudder of that ship, whether he's the head of the party or not. He will be its de facto head, his shadow head, if you wanted to throw that in there. But yeah, I mean that's the big problem though, and that's ultimately why I don't necessarily think you'll see a third party split, even though like he's talked about it before. Right. He won't actually spearhead that because he's too lazy. Like, he won't. Oh no,
he don't have to do no work. Like, that's how he's made it. He says some shit, everyone does the work, and he just scoot out of the way and claim credit, right? But like I could very much see a situation. I mean, look at his telegraphing, right? Mm-hmm. He's attacking Mitch McConnell. Oh, you're shitting on my candidates, right? Like, he doesn't even see it as Republican candidates, his candidates, right? So he's literally fighting with the party. He's fighting with the one guy who can guarantee victories for him, right? Or not guarantee, but like will work hard to make him victorious and actually have a Congress like he could potentially work with in 2024. He's even fighting with him because he sees Mitch McConnell as what I would assume is sort of like a necessary evil, but now he thinks he has the full control of the party and he knows more than McConnell because he's like been on the inside, which is a mistake. That's not true, but I think he believes that.
I honestly, this is going to sound weird, and I might be attributing way too much credit to Donald Trump, who's an idiot, as we'll soon find out. As we get into like our main story of the week. Yeah. I almost wonder if he would be totally happy with Republicans getting smacked around in the midterms, because all that does is strengthen his cause.
Yes.
Like if a bunch of non-Trumpian, a bunch of McConnell candidates can't flip seats, and McConnell and Kevin McCarthy are the guys like at the head of the parties in Congress right now, and they can't flip, what should be a relatively easy flip. It's a midterm year, party in power usually has the advantage, yada, yada. Like, if they can't flip that stuff, that almost works to Trump's favor, because then he could be like, see, like, my way is the right way. Like, you should be following me because, that way I can win. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me at all for him to be undermining that. Now, I don't claim credit for him, like, planting guys like Herschel Walker and Dr. Oz in as candidates, knowing that they would fail. Like, I'm pretty sure he believed they would succeed. But.
Right. No, they are literally plucked out of who he is, right? These celebrities who have no place in politics, just running for the grift, right? Like that's all those are, right? So they're just little mini Trumps. But you're right. Like, it does actually power him more to have Republicans, for the first time in a very long time, lose a midterm election when they are not the party in power, right? To not flip both houses. Look, he often states that whole like authoritarian ideal, which is I alone can save you.
Yeah.
And and taking it from his thought process on like the United States, where he would say that, which was nuts. But taking it to his party and saying, I alone can bring us back to this glorious fucking thing in 2024. you come vote for me, motherfucker. Like, remember back in 2016, I beat the person who was unbeatable, although she already lost once, like the unbeatable Hillary Clinton, right? Like, he can make the argument that, see, now when I'm not there, look what happens to your party.
Now, the thing working against him is the fact that he has no discipline and can't stay out of the spotlight. He has to be the center of attention.
He can't.
He has to be the guy that's stirring the drink.
Yeah. So, but that's his greatest power and his greatest flaw, right? Like, he's like a Greek character, like out of like Greek mythology. Like, his hubris is gigantic. Like, it's like, wow, this guy is amazing at like moving an entire party to his style and everything, but he can't stop truthing or tweeting.
Fake tweeting.
For great value tweeting.
Yeah. The RC Cola of Twitter is
no. It's more like the mellow yellow of tweets. Holy shit. But it's he can't help himself. That's his major fault, is that he cannot help himself. Like, his hubris is just fucking insane. So, like, if he was disciplined, he would be so difficult to beat. But he's not disciplined. Like, but that's part of what people love about him, right? They just fucking say anything. Yeah. I'll just fucking retweet some QAnon bullshit. And it's like, oh, I love that about him. And then you're like, oh no, this backfired. Like, don't do that. You know, like,
case in point, Trump can't stop giving the FBI evidence to support charging him with the crime, potentially.
Yeah, turns out. So let's jump right into that story. Well, at the beginning of last week, because timing sucks for us, the redacted, literally, it was like the day after we recorded, because of course, they released the redacted affidavit.
Yeah.
Oof. Big oof energy. Donald Trump Jr. Photoshopped an image of the redacted bar over his dad's dick, which was weird. Like, that was weird. Like, don't do that, you creep. But look,
it's your dad.
Yeah, it's your dad. Stop talking about your dad's penis size. It's weird. We already talked about it with a porn star. She wasn't impressed. Okay, just relax. He had to pay her over $100,000 to see it. How pathetic is that, by the way? We don't talk about that enough. He had to pay her money. It's like, like, it wasn't just to, like, shut up. It was like, let me sleep with you. Like, let's get real.
Sure.
Stormy Daniels. I've seen Stormy Daniels' professional work. She's done a lot better. Knock it off.
No. Undoubtedly, she was paid for services rendered.
Yeah.
In that situation. Yes.
Gross. Stormy, you should have known better. Come on. But yeah. Redacted affidavit comes out. 184 classified documents were in fact found at Mar-a-Lago. Now, keep in mind, this is after Trump's lawyer came out and was like, yeah, here's a signed document stating that there are no more classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Maybe I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, we gave them all back. You sure? Because we're still missing a lot of stuff off this list here.
No. You guys are wrong. Okay. We'll give you a couple weeks. We'll come back again. By the way, not in this story, but in another story I saw, like when the DOJ and FBI agents went down to Mar-a-Lago, not for Raidapalooza, but previously. Like, this is like before when they did the subpoena, and then they just like went down there like, yo, look, the face-to-face chat, shit's cool. Just give us our stuff back before we come down here and fuck your whole life up. When they went down for that, they saw like the back room or whatever basement that had all these boxes in it, and they were like, all right, can we look in those boxes? And they were like, Trump's lawyer was like, no, you can't look in the boxes. Get out of here. It was like,
yeah,
okay, man. Like, look, all right, we'll be back.
I feel like the spirit of cooperation would go a long way to making you guys look a lot less guilty than you're coming off right now. I got to tell you.
I mean, that's the number one part of this, is this whole idea, and it's what all these sort of MAGA supporters keep missing. They literally tried to not do the raid.
Yeah.
That was their whole point of doing all the cooperation and setting people down to come take a look from the National Archives and everything else. They were trying to keep it out of the news. Well, you kept telling them, thumbing your nose at them and telling them to go fuck themselves. And so they were like, all right, well, you ready to get embarrassed? Because when we come down here, it's going to be on some real shit. Like, we can't hide it, motherfucker. Like, once it's out there, it's out there. But they tried.
And they tried. They
for
tried.
A year.
For
a year.
No, but even when they conducted the search, it's not like, they had dudes down there wearing, the FBI jackets, the FBI windbreakers and,
right.
walking around with, like G-Men sunglasses and all that bullshit. Like, they tried to keep it on the down low.
Well, he tweeted that or truthed it. He was like, hey, they're raiding my shit.
Yeah.
And people were like, look, like, dude, we weren't going to go on the news and tell you, but you came out and said that shit. And probably other people at your club, because it is a massive security hole. A bunch of people were like, oh, the FBI's here. That's weird.
Yeah. Well, and again, like every step in this process that we've learned so far, from, the search to today, has been driven by the fact that, like we said, Trump is an undisciplined moron that can't fucking keep his mouth shut.
He can't.
Because at every step of the way, like, the DOJ has been trying to treat this as kind of as business as usual as they can. But Trump's the one that's out here like, release the search warrant, release the affidavit, like release the things that you found. He's pushing for more transparency. And DOJ sitting there like, you sure? Like you sure this is what you want? Because we'll do it. Like, if you're gonna talk shit on us in the media, like we're gonna go clear our good name.
I like it. The only thing I can assume that sort of Trump world. Let me rephrase that, because implying Trump world is like sort of Trump supported media. That don't for this, that shit don't really exist anymore. They're keeping real fucking quiet, dude. Like, Fox News might be on some legit, like, oh, maybe.
The legit people are keeping quiet.
Yeah, the legit people. I'm not talking about like OAN and all that other.
Right.
Look, as far as I'm concerned, they're barely a better production than what we got going on here. Okay, like, quite literally, they're just not drinking beers on air like Brad, but like probably during commercial breaks. Let's be real. Hey, look, I respect it. But like, legitimate people are kind of like, oh, this is getting a little bit more serious. And they're kind of pulling back, right? So I don't want to say like fully a Trump world thing, but Trump and his like closest advisors and supporters and what have you and lawyers, I think that they think that they can kind of just run the clock out on all of this. They can kind of just play this as any sort of normal political scandal. Just like, oh, squirrel, something else going on. Like, nah, the DOJ is not taking their eye off of this. It's kind of a big deal. And I think they either don't realize that, or they think that like just, I guess if your bullshit tactics work all the time, you just assume they will continue to work. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not how this is going to work at all. So 184 unique documents bearing classification markings, including 67 documents marked confidential in very large letters, 92 documents marked secret, and 25 documents marked top secret. Yeah. Now they don't make the distinguishing or the distinction here, but like some of these documents, I think they were the secret documents, or probably the top secret documents, are also considered compartmentalized documents, which is even more fucking secret.
Yes.
Incidentally, the FBI agents who went to pick this shit up had to get higher clearances just to get some of the documents. They were that fucking secure that the FBI agents did not have the clearance to touch the documents.
Yeah, like SCI documents are like, basically, unless the president is being, or someone that needs this information is being actively briefed, these probably should be staying in the agency that they belong to. Like, that's kind of like what those are all about. And so like ultimately, like when he gets asked about this, and he'll eventually sit down for an interview of some shape or form, I would imagine at some point, assuming it's not just like, a softball like Hannity interview, the question that needs to be asked is, why did you need to keep this stuff? Like all this like top secret info and all this like the compartmentalized information. Like, why did you need to keep it? Because the answer that he's going to provide is, oh well, I was the president, so it's mine.
That's not an answer.
Not gonna fucking fly. That's not going to fucking fly, even in crazy circles. Because again, like, it's not like all the documentation that the president has goes with him, and then the next president is just starting with a blank slate and like, all right, I don't know nothing. Like, I don't have documents on anything.
I just get to keep everything. To keep everything. Fuck you, Joe Biden. You figure it out. Like, I got all the aliens documents. You go write new ones. Like, that's not how that works. Yeah. And but I see people online saying things like that, which is so weird. They're like, no, those documents are his. No, they're actually ours.
Yeah.
They're actually ours. They belong to the American government, which thus is that belongs to us. Also, Trump is like, there's a picture of like a bunch of documents that were like just strewn across the floor, right? That they picked up, and he took a picture of it, and the FBI released it. And Trump tweeted. Truth. He put out there, he was like, look at the FBI. They set these up, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is ridiculous. Luckily, I already, they were unclassified now. Wink. And it's like, then why do you care?
Not only did he like complain about the documents being strewn, the way that he's like, I know that they spread them across the floor themselves because these documents were in cartons. And it's just like, bro, you just admitted that you knew what the documents were and where they were being housed, and you knew that you had them.
Yeah.
With that one statement, like you were just throwing that out there like an idiot.
What are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Like these are public. Like, again, if this does ever go to trial, and people are like, well, like, how did the president know? He didn't know that these were there. Like, here's his statements about these. Like, he's getting mad at us for spreading them across the floor, and he's like, those were in boxes. Like, why'd you take them out? You're trying to make me look bad. I'm like, well, you're doing a pretty good job of that yourself, I gotta say.
Yeah. These are these truths are self-evident. It's I am amazed at how unbelievably stupid he is, and this is because he can't get any lawyers. Like, he doesn't have any decent lawyers to be like, yo, just stop talking, stop tweeting, please just stop saying things.
We talked about the one. One of the dudes that he has, like Jim Trusty.
Is Trusty in the club,
which is hilarious. Apparently, like, as the story goes, like, he reached out to Jim Trusty because he saw him on TV one time and was impressed by him, and so he was like, that guy's got to be my lawyer. Look, he looks great. He's doing such a good job.
I bet very handsome. Probably does good with the ladies. This is my guy. Like, that's probably all it was. I don't know what Jim Trusty looks like, but I bet he looks like a TV lawyer. I guarantee he does.
Like it's essentially the equivalent of like you being like me being at home, being like, fuck, I really need a lawyer, and like I'm watching Price is Right during the daytime, and a Science Kirk and Miles commercial comes on,
like
local broadcast. Except in this situation, I'm me, so that would make sense. He's the president or the former president. Like he should be able to get a little bit better caliber of attorney. But as we talked about last week, it's because he fucking stiffs everybody on payments and needs people to bail him out. And if he doesn't have the money, he's just not going to fucking pay you.
Speaking of that, but actually, I'll mention this, but I'll hold off and go into that story because I do want to circle back on something. Yeah, the RNC is no longer sponsoring the Trump legal show this season, as I wrote, and that is very important. But we will get to that story. But in reference to the redacted affidavit information, there was a story that came out, New York Times, classified material on human intelligence sources helped trigger an alarm. So the thought process here is that some of the documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago were actually on human sources or information gathered from human sources. Now, that goes back to a couple weeks ago where we had talked about there basically being for all intents and purposes, a knock list, like in Mission Impossible 1, where in these documents it was actually listing like spies' names and information and like where they are located and shit like that, which was like, why do you need that? Like, again, that's a valuable question of like in an interview with a real, where's that Australian dude or whatever that comes over.
What's his face? Jonathan Snow, I think his name is.
That guy needs to do the interview.
Or no, not John. It can't be Jonathan Snow. That's a Game of Thrones character. I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
but the guy that works for Axios. I know.
Yeah. That guy's a prick. That's who I want interviewing him. No, that guy is definitely the guy you want. Like, the fuck did you need this for? And then just like incredulous face for 20 minutes.
Like if he does have names of intelligence officers and
why
like, the location stuff they're working on, like, what could you possibly need that for other than to potentially use that information in a way that's not exactly kosher, let's say.
Yeah. So, possible coincidence, incidentally, captured, killed, or compromised, CIA admits to losing dozens of informants. Counterintelligence officials said in a top-secret cable to all stations and bases around the world that too many of the people it recruits from other countries to spy for the U.S. are being lost. Now, this comes around the same time. This is like a year ago. This comes around the same time that he would have taken those things. Now, I don't think that it is fair to jump to conclusions that he is 100% responsible or even 1% responsible for doing this. I think that's a little unfair to jump to conclusions without any like hard facts on that. But at the same time, what I would say is Beretta did that shit. Like, I would 100% believe it. I find that to be too massive of a coincidence. I would be a fool not to at least think that it is a very good possibility that a guy who would have the list of spies and informants names at his house wouldn't be selling this shit off to the Chinese, to the Russians, to the Saudis, whoever. Again, what would be the rationale for having that information?
Yeah. Like we said a couple weeks ago, there's not very many charitable reasons that you could come up with as to why someone would need to hang on to that information when they stopped working in the job that they were in.
Right. Like, you could make an argument. It'd be a weird one, but you could make an argument for like, well, he needed to know. I don't even like. Actually, probably none of these documents you could make an argument for. But you certainly can't make one for a list of spies. That makes no sense.
Right. The only potential argument you could make that might hold a modicum of water is, oh well, he was going to run again in 2024, so he wanted to make sure that he still had access to this stuff so that he could slide back in the job easier. That would be the most charitable interpretation that you could ascribe to the situation. And it also completely falls apart when you realize that it's Donald Trump, literally the most disinterested person to be the president that we've ever had.
Also, like, Joe Biden cut off his daily briefings. So he's not getting up-to-date information. Anything that he has would immediately be like, it's either evergreen stuff or out of date. So it wouldn't necessarily help him to like, what, he's still learning on the job? You were on the job for 4 years. You're still trying to figure it out? Like, knock that off. Yeah, he doesn't read. Okay, like, let's get real. Unless it's a bunch of confidential documents with pictures in them and pop-ups, he ain't reading that shit.
Pop-up books specifically. Yes. Like they should have literally had to make like a pop-up book, like show me how the missile strike works, and he could just like move a little cardboard thing to show like a missile going across the top of the page.
Take that, Sweden. Like, all right. Take that, Greenland. I'm going to buy you out. Like, first we'll nuke you. Like, all right. Take that, hurricane. I'll nuke you first. So, yeah, look, again, I don't know if he is responsible for these captured, killed, or compromised spies, but my heart of hearts tells me that he absolutely is. Like, is that fair? I get it if you're listening to this and you're like, that's not fair. I get that. But why are you listening to this show? Like, come on.
and it's possible he could be partly responsible for it, even unconsciously. Because again, it's not like the records were being kept in a super secure location. Like it was in the basement of his fucking club next to the wine racks or what, wherever the fuck he had this shit.
Right. And look, and I don't think it's an if, I think it is a when he gets indicted, just so you know, other people are getting indicted too. Correct. It ain't going to just be Donald Trump gets indicted. It's going to be Donald Trump gets indicted, and here are all the list of other idiots that were at Mar-a-Lago touching this shit. They're all getting indicted. Like, all of them. So, it could easily be, I mean, look, Donald Trump's his best move is to just throw whoever else gets indicted alongside him, throw those people under the bus. And just,
but how? Look, He's in this situation. That doesn't work.
No, I know.
Like,
right?
He's the dude that owned that.
Right. But what I'm saying is the only way it works is you throw them under the bus, and then you have information on them selling the shit. Right? Like, I got information that fucking Johnny, who you indicted with me, he stole the documents. He sold it to the Saudis. Like, that would be the only way he could possibly get himself out of that. I don't see that happening. But I definitely see him trying to throw them under the bus. Absolutely. But that's my guess. That's his only out.
Yeah. And like I said, he's an idiot. I mean, he's a complete idiot. And but again, never stop truthing Donald Trump. Like never stop talking online because you are making the job so much easier.
Oh, absolutely. He can't help himself. All right, so let's talk about the RNC not paying Donald Trump's legal fees, because that is very, very telling. Look, follow the money, man. Republican National Committee has so far footed the bill for much of former President Donald Trump's legal woes, though it won't be helping on matters stemming from the FBI investigation and retrieval of documents from his Florida estate. A source told Politico Tuesday that Trump would have to front the legal bills after he hired a former Solicitor General, Chris Keys, to represent him in the Justice Department criminal investigation. The RNC has paid almost $2 million in legal fees representing Trump between October 2021 and July of this year. He's draining them. Yeah. He's draining them. And it's like, we could be using this money to try to win elections, but we're spending $2 million on your ass, and now you're involved with the FBI. Look, for all the rhetoric and all this other stuff, the RNC knows that this is real. Mm-hmm. And they know that the FBI is not going to go after this guy unless it's real. Unless they may not win, but you can guarantee that they think they have a real case. Draining them of money during a midterm election that they're like, ooh, things are not the red wave isn't doing as well as we potentially thought it would, right? So now they got to pump a little bit more money into these candidates. That and the fact that they know, minus their Twitter rhetoric and everything else, they know that this shit is for real. Mm-hmm. And what you're just throwing good money after bad at that point. So
yeah. No. Well, and again, Trump shouldn't need the money. Like, he has PACs set up that people are grifting and just dumping money into that he could pay for the shit himself. Like, I don't understand why the RNC even would think they need to foot the bill for him in this situation. But, good that they figured out that they're just, flushing money down the toilet by doing it.
Yeah. Look, but again, I think it's fairly telling that they don't want to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's smart money on their part. It is.
If you're a normal Republican donor, like not a fucking MAGA chud, but like if you're like a normal Republican donor guy, you gotta be a little bit pissed that, that so much money is being funneled towards him for shit that's not even winning elections, right?
No, I mean, this moron is still quite literally screaming from what I assume is a toilet on Truth Social, saying like he needs to be reinstated for the 2020 election. It's been 2 years. Like he literally said that shit. He's like, I either need to be, the results need to be overturned or we need a do-over. Like his fucking plan. I'm just like, bro, like this is a man who was the president, literally out here on Al Gore's internet being like, do-over from the election from 2 years ago. Yeah, come on, bro. Like, nah. Yeah. Like that shit's a wrap. So yeah, I think it is incredibly telling. I think it's incredibly telling by the RNC that they are They're like, nah, we're good, man. We don't. You got it. You got it. You got it. Don't. There's no need to call us. We will call you. Next up, Trump wakes up, goes big on Great Value Twitter. We kind of alluded to that. He sent out 60 tweets or truths in like 90 minutes.
Including like just straight like 4chan and fucking 8chan shit.
Just straight up retweets.
Like verbatim.
Retruths. Yeah, he even retruthed a Q drop. Like a straight up Q drop. Which is nuttier than shit. I do have to wonder, like, you guys still reading those? Like, you guys think this shit is real? Like, why? I read the new Q drop that came out, because that fucking chud lost his Arizona seat, so he's got plenty to do. He's like, I guess I'll go back to being Q again. People are like, yeah, that seems legitimate. By the way, FBI, you've been on a fucking tear. Just look, you got like the best hackers in the fucking free world over there. Just find this guy and embarrass him. Just embarrass him. Like, this is Ron Watkins' dumb son is the guy tweeting his Q. Can we just fucking move on? Here's the evidence. Boom. Throw it out. Yeah. Don't even respond and just go away. Like, just embarrass him, Just embarrass him.
And again, I have to ask, if you are a quote unquote rational Republican or like not a fucking, MAGA blower, like, how are you not embarrassed and mortified to be supporting this dude at this point?
I don't know. I really don't know. It seems pretty obvious.
Is he really are Democrats so bad that like you're still willing to throw the towel in, throw your lot in with this guy who's out here just like blasting the most insane conspiracy nonsense?
Yeah,
that you're willing to support him, that you would still vote for him in these elections and stuff like that. Like, at what point does whatever you call like pride, shame, things like that, at what point does that instinct that lives within you surface and be like, bro, what the fuck are you doing?
I think it's hilarious, Brad, and I've known you a very long time. Yeah. I think it is hilarious that you think that they have shame. That is adorable. They don't. There is no bottom to that barrel. Like, there's not.
I don't know that I'm even talking about politicians at this point.
I'm not talking about them either. That's who I'm talking about. Okay. That voted for Trump. I'm not sure that still support him. I don't think they have shame, man. Like, you voted for a guy and you heard a tape where he was like, I moved on her like a bitch. Like, that's which true. Makes you sound like you're the bitch. Like it's just weird. But like, that's who they voted for. They vote for the guy who is supported by racists and seditionists and terrorists and, fascists. They do every time. Like, there is no bottom to that barrel. Look, like we've talked about this a lot. Trump is a symptom. He's a symptom of the Republican Party. He is the logical end of that party, like on its far extreme. I mean, I'm sure there's someone worse, because there always is. But these are the same people who watched Reagan run the government in a debate to run the government was like, the worst things you could ever hear is, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. You're running for president. What the fuck are you doing? And they were like, stamp, this is the guy. And they still support him. He was a terrible actor, just as a side note. But, like, these are people who still support him. These are the people who still support those actions. So no, there's no shame. They don't have any.
Again, it still defies logic. Like, and I guess this just speaks to the fragility of human beings, that so many instances of fucking, people like demagogues being elected popularly to offices of power around the world. Mm-hmm. And like, we have the history, like we can see things that have happened in the past. And we see the playbook that these people ran.
Right.
And it just fucking keeps happening again. Because I guess, like, surely they think, oh, well, you know, we would never elect someone as bad as, you know, like some of these other guys. And then, like, it's just
surprise.
Like, it's fucking happening right now. Like, oh, no, he's not as bad as these other people in history. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, he really fucking is.
Yeah,
like,
give him another 4 years and see, and you get to see the full version of him. And that's the terrifying thing, right? Like, if that guy wins re-election, he will go full on crazy because he has nothing to think about. All he has to do is, I got 4 years to fuck shit up. We're out of NATO. We're out of the United Nations. We're out of all of that shit immediately, dude. He's not going to hesitate. Why hesitate? What is he worried about? Re-election? No.
No, he wouldn't be worried about it.
So. No. The worst thing America could do is to make that mistake twice. Look, America makes a lot of mistakes, but normally, like, I've been thinking about this, like, looking at the numbers of like how things are shifting in states that he won by 10 points, 20 points and things like that. And you're like, you know, they're like, wow, you know, there's a real cultural shift and is it the Roe v. Wade thing and stuff like that? And it is, right? Like that, you should definitely not downplay that is a big factor. But there's another factor. Americans are really, we are obsessed with retribution, right? Like we like a good revenge story, right? We do. And I don't know how other countries deal with that, but I know America, and we love a revenge story. We fucking do. And people, one of the reasons why the parties get decimated in midterms is because people take personal offense to shit that has happened during that first 2 years. They're like, fucking gas prices are high. They take it personal. And they're like, I'm taking it out on your party because your party is in power. Doesn't matter if it's like not really their fault, but you guys are in power, so I'm pissed at you. That's just retribution, right? That it defies logic. It's just generally retribution. People felt really hurt by what Trump did, right? Not just Democrats who like hated him from the jump for obvious reasons because they pay attention to the guy since the fucking 80s, but Republicans, some Republicans got really offended by what he did to that party. And it was like, you're making us a fucking laughingstock. And the people who converted over to join Democrats for Biden and stuff like that, they were pissed. And people are still generally pissed. And that you're seeing play out in this midterms where it's like, Joe Biden's not doing so great. And then when he started kind of turning shit around, people are like, oh, we got a chance to like really kick the shit out of Donald Trump as he's popped his head back up. We'll do it again. People like a revenge story, man. They really don't like that guy. Like, it's not a politics thing. People have a visceral fucking reaction to him. You see people wearing that hat and you watch how people react to them. Fuck that guy wearing that hat. Like, people are very fucking adamant about it. It's not just wearing a like Trump t-shirt like as if Trump was like some regular Republican. It's not like Romney 2008. Like, people didn't have that visceral reaction. People have a very visceral reaction to him. That's not good for him. I mean, look, he's got people who love him, but as many people love you for like, you're so amazing, more people hate your fucking guts. And Americans love revenge. They do. They do. Like, they can't wait to fucking enact that shit. The worst thing he could have done was pop his head up before this midterm. He should have kept his fucking mouth shut. If he was savvy, he'd have kept his mouth shut, and then he would have popped up after the midterms. But he's not savvy. He can't help himself.
It's also kind of the irony of the fact that he's truly the first like leader that we've had in this country that's had this almost like cultish following to him. And the fact that his supporters, his most ardent supporters, feel the need to throw that shit in people's faces all the time, which keeps him like top of mind, never forget about him, like always conscious that he's there. Like, again, like I told you, like there's a house that I drive by on my way to drop my son off every morning that literally has, you know, a Biden lost flag and a Trump 2024 flag like flying in his fucking yard that I have to see every fucking day as I drive by it. And so it's impossible for me to forget that the dude exists because I'm literally, it's literally thrown in my face constantly.
Right. And you never saw McCain flags like that.
Right.
You never saw Romney flags like that. You never saw Obama flags like that, right?
You never saw Bush, like there was no like Bush flags like that. Like it just doesn't exist that way,
right?
For other folks.
Like, when's the last time you heard from George W. Bush? Like, he pops up every like 3 to 4 months and says something fucking silly or does something silly. Oh, it was raincoat on my head. But like,
you don't see Biden stuff like that. Like I don't see Biden shit anywhere, and he's the current president, which again is normal. Like that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right, because Democrats know that it's a job.
Right.
Republicans think this is a dear leader. Like, and it's so funny they compare. Like, it's the weirdest thing to compare liberals and progressive people to like fascism and socialism and like, you guys behave like them. Like the groups that you associate with us, you behave like them. Like marching in line, fucking flags, dear leader type of shit. You guys behave like that. We don't.
And by the way, Jay, I'm sure you saw we have a new N-word for whites that came up this week, thanks to our president.
Oh, semi-fascist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really didn't like that.
Oh, they did not. But I'm gonna prove something to you, Brad.
Yep.
Allow me to drop a something into the fake peace industrial complex. Trademark by Terrence. Look, he called them semi-fascists. It still didn't get semi-fascist. That's a pretty loaded fucking term. Still didn't get the negative coverage from the media that Basket of Deplorables got.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucking ironic? Biden, a white guy's like, I don't know, man. They're semi-fascist. By the way, you don't have to go halfway. You just say like I get it. He doesn't want to call the whole party fascist. I get that. If you listen to Hillary's statement, she didn't call the whole party deplorable either. But you know, she
said half of them. Half of them were a basket of deplorable.
I mean, if anything, she was lowballing it. If we're being honest, like that's Hillary's greatest issue. The numbers were too low. But just notice the difference in the coverage. People were just like, wow, he used fascist. Like, what is a fascist? And then had a conversation about it. That's not what they did with Hillary. Again.
Well, in normal media, yes. Like the Foxes and further right, like we're out here saying like, this is the most, like Trump never said anything so inflammatory. I'm like, did you have your ears closed for like the last 6 years? Really?
Okay. Or 30. Or 30. Yeah. I mean, he did, like, come on. But no.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and just talk about like his time in political life.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Still definitely worse things.
Still definitely. A wild thing to say. Like Mehdi Hassan like talked about that on a show. He's like, really? He's like, I've got a tape. Like he's like, super. Trump saying way worse things than calling some of his supporters semi-fascist.
Right. And look, knowing Mehdi Hassan, he ran that tape because he's awesome and he's one of my
favorite. He absolutely did. Yes. Yeah, he did.
He's sure. Great. Yeah. He did have a tweet today that I actually really appreciate. He was like, never forget that Trump. What did he say? Like, never forget that Trump is still upset on Trump declassified all of the documents that the FBI planted at Mar-a-Lago. Like, and he was like, lol, which I thought was just great. But yeah, I just think the coverage is interesting. Look, yes, you're gonna get hard coverage from the right wing. That's not surprising, but you're not getting coverage from left wing organizations like MSNBC, who was like, this is the worst thing Hillary could have said. And they lambasted her for getting down in the mud. It's because she's a woman. Like you cannot, I would be shocked. I would find it really weird for another argument to be made that calling someone a semi-fascist is somehow not at least equivalent. I think is worse than calling some of his supporters a basket of deplorables. Like semi-fascist is not only is it a loaded term, it's a loaded political term. Who's the group that we call fascists? Fucking Nazis, man. And they're like, yeah, I get it. Like, Joe's probably right. But the coverage is not equal, man. It's not even close to being fucking equal.
I don't think it's a gender thing, though, in this case. I think it's because when she said that, we hadn't gotten the full Trump experience yet at that point. Like, he was still running for president at that point. And when Joe Biden called his support semi-fascist, like, we've had the last 6 years.
You're like, there's more data.
Right. And we've
Fair
seen
enough. Fair enough.
And January 6th literally happened between, that as well.
Fair
so,
enough. Fair enough.
I think the reason that there wasn't this like incredulousness on normal media is because they're just like, he's kind of got a point.
Mehdi rolled the tape and he was like, got it.
I don't expect like Chris Hayes to be out there like, Joe Biden spitting truth, but at the same time, he's just like, he's
you know what? That is a look. Point counterpoint. It's a fairly like touche. That's a fairly good point. They do have more data now, which is great. That's pretty funny. Damning, but pretty funny. Next up, racism. Yeah. No, as I've been told, hey man, the North and the South both have equal amounts of racism. It's not different there versus up here. Okay. Jackson, Mississippi, the state's capital and great name, has no safe tap water for the foreseeable future. It's a crisis decades in the making. So live action Peter Griffin, aka the governor of Texas, Tate Reeves, the worst governor, I would argue.
Really the worst governor?
After this story, the worst governor. Yeah, the worst.
All right, fair enough. Like I said, I'd still have trouble putting anyone lower than DeSantis, but
yeah, but they got drinkable water there, dude. Like,
that's true. They can live in Florida currently.
Yeah, so. I mean, currently, I think that is also a good point.
Yeah,
gotta put that asterisk there.
I mean, look, we got a iceberg about to lose 3% of its mass in Greenland. That's going to raise water levels around the world by 12 inches in the next fucking 70 years. So we got that to look forward to, apparently.
That's the what? Wait, 7 years or 70 years?
70. We will be dead. Don't worry. Like, we're not going to have to.
Thank
God.
Not
going to have to deal with this.
Woo.
But
All right, that is my daughter's problem when she's an old lady.
Correct.
So, she'll be fighting fighting for water in the scenes from Mad Max Fury Road, I assume. So, some 180,000 residents in and around Jackson, Mississippi, the state capital and largest city, have little to no sanitary water for the foreseeable future after the city's primary water treatment plant failed, the governor announced on Tuesday. Quote, until it's fixed, we do not have reliable running water at scale. The city cannot produce enough water to fight fires, to flush toilets, and to meet other critical needs. Look, there was an interview I heard part of where they're interviewing a teacher in Jackson, Mississippi, and he's like, yeah, look, by the way, Jackson, Mississippi, 80% black, which is, in my opinion, the reason why this is not the biggest fucking national story, because it absolutely should be. But again, I guess what can you expect? Because Flint, Michigan still has water issues. And if you want to look at a criticism, people go, oh, you guys don't criticize Barack Obama, blah, blah, blah. That's my critique of Barack Obama, is that he could have gone up there, bully pulpitted the fuck out of that shit and been like, federal government is coming in here and we're replacing these pipes and getting this drinking water. That's what he should have done. That is my biggest fucking complaint about him, is that he didn't do it, because it's an easy victory. Because who the fuck doesn't think people should have drinking water? Like, right. Who's arguing against that? Republicans? Fuck them. Like, oh, look at Obama. Look what he's doing. And? Like, okay, so what? But he didn't do it. And look, Trump didn't do it either. Nobody did it. Nobody did shit. But here's another opportunity. Joe, pick it up and run with it. This not only it's like student debt relief. Not only is this the right thing to do, this is an easy win. Get up there and be like, go down to fucking Mississippi and be like, we're having a joint fucking conference with Tate Reeves. What do you need? Done. Right? Like, what's Tate Reeves going to do? He gonna insult you on fucking television? Let him. He'll look like a fucking asshole. You'll destroy him politically. He can't. Yeah. So 180,000 residents without drinkable water. Keep in mind what I said. They don't have water to fight fires, to flush toilets, or to meet other critical needs. Not that they don't have drinkable water like in schools, which, by the way, if you think that's like the interview I heard with this teacher, he's like, yeah, we don't have, they don't have clean potable water for kids to drink out of water fountains. And they were like, wow, really? That's crazy. They don't have that in Baltimore City, by the way. Okay. And have not for years, right? Because of lead pipes in schools, right? Because they're so old. Now they're working to replace those things all the time. That's great because they're actually working at it. But that's that's a common thing in a lot of cities, right? But these people don't have water to flush toilets. Mm-hmm. What the fuck? Like, that's insane.
Or to give it to pets, they said. Don't even do that shit.
Yeah, you can't. You have to do bottled water. And the government, the local government is out of, they cannot afford to give bottled water to people anymore. So people have to pay for that themselves now.
Yeah. So let's walk through some data about Jackson, Mississippi. So apparently, like, this issue with water treatment, according to this article, has been going on since the 70s. Back in the 70s, the APA was like, yeah, you better fix your infrastructure because this isn't sustainable, and it never got fixed. Coincidentally, and I'm using the word coincidentally loosely because you'll soon find once I say this that this is quite not a coincidence. In 1980. Half of the population in Jackson, Mississippi was white.
That's correct.
And in 2022, 82% of the population in Jackson, Mississippi is black.
Yep. So part of, do you know why there was this big white flight?
I'm sure you're going to tell me. I would imagine it's the general move to the suburbs that you see in a lot of urban areas, but I'm sure there's actual reasons behind it as well. Yes to both of those. It was white flight to the suburbs. Why? Because of school segregation. Whites wanted more segregation to keep black people out of their fucking schools. So they couldn't do it in Jackson, so they moved to the surrounding counties. This, like everything else in America, is so fucking deep fried in fucking racism. It is insane. Like, it is absolutely insane. So now, after 40 years, or excuse me, 50 years of telling these dumb fucking Republicans, because it is a Republican-run state, and has been since the 70s, and probably before that, at least conservative. Oh no, it was Democratic before, but Dixiecrat.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, conservative, right?
Yeah.
Because according to political pundits who are paid by Prager University or whatever, the party's never changed. That's why right wingers carry the Confederate flag around. Got it. All right, makes sense. How did they even say shit like that, like, out of their mouths? It makes no sense to me. But anyway, the Conservative Party, whether they were Dixiecrats or now Republicans and have been for 50 years, 50 plus years, they've been told this. Tate Reeves immediately tries to say, well, the mayor of Jackson is the problem. The mayor is the problem? No, dude. Your party is the fucking problem. You guys have ignored this shit. You didn't want to pay for it because, again, white flight. So, well, white people ain't here. So, like, what the fuck do we care, right? 29% of the people in Jackson, Mississippi live in poverty, right? Extreme poverty. They don't give a fuck about these people. They don't care. So the question is, it's not what the state is going to do. The state isn't going to do shit. They're going to leave it like this. They're going to clean it up enough to get it out of the news and then hope that this blows over and then we forget about it and move on. But they're not going to do anything. The question is, what is the federal government going to do? What is Joe Biden going to do? What is the Biden-Harris administration going to do? This is a go time fucking moment. I'm glad you did student debt relief. It's great. Helps a lot of people. Wonderful. Whatever. I'm glad you want to do a assault weapons ban. That's incredibly important if you hold the House and the Senate. What are you going to do about this? Joe Biden is really good at speaking that fucking truth to power about like suffering and shit like that. That is his superpower. Take your ass to that goddamn state and get on the pulpit and talk your shit. Help these people, man. This is what government is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. Federal government is supposed to go, you can't handle it, state government? Step aside, Butch. We got it. That's what you're supposed to do.
And apparently, like, it would cost, I think, like $200 million to update the infrastructure properly for good water in that city. That's not like federal government be like, here's like, you want it in cash or a check? Like, we got you.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that big.
Send the what is it? The Naval Corps of Engineers, or Army Corps of Engineers. Send them down there. Let's fucking go. Let's go. Get it done. That's how you look. You do shit like this, and it's like the federal government. Don't just send a check. Check is good, but you need to spearhead this shit. And look, the best way to diffuse the Republican Party is to stand next to him, wrap your fucking arm right around Tate Reeves's where he's supposed to have a neck, and because fuck that guy, and stand right there with him and like, we're gonna fix this together, motherfucker, because there's nothing he can do. And guess what? Mm-hmm. The only thing it'll either do is he helps people and he takes credit, even though everybody sees what you did. Fuck him anyway. Who cares?
Right.
Or what it'll likely do is it'll politically destroy him. Because Republicans will be like, how dare you work with a Democrat?
Happened to Chris Christie.
That's right. Look, Obama literally killed Chris Christie's career by hugging him.
To be fair, I think
also
Chris
killing
Christie,
a guy on a bridge.
Yeah, I'd say drove several nails through his own coffin.
Yes, he did. But that really pissed Republicans off. Like, it really did. Yeah. How dare you? And he was like, yo, he was helping me during a hurricane. What do you want me to do? And they were just like, there's no quarter, man. No quarter. So, look, I think the best thing he could do is to go down there and fucking, like, give a speech. Be like, and look, and don't just give a speech. Have the representatives of the Army Corps of Engineers behind you as you give that speech. Or like, we're here. And what you do is you gotta be a bit of a prick, Joe. You gotta be a bit of a prick, and I know you know how to be. I know you do. Like I would go down there and I would say, listen. Somebody once said that the worst thing you could hear is we're from the government. We're here to help. I'm here to tell you that's the best thing you can hear because the Joe Biden administration is here to help. Let's fucking go. Turn that shit on its head. Embarrass them that they wouldn't do something for 50 fucking years and now people don't have drinking water. Get down there. Fucking do your Trump shit. Throw the water bottles into the crowd. I don't know. Who cares? Right? That's acceptable now. But get down there and help people. That's what matters. Not this just, glad handing and like fucking talking shit. Go down there and do something, man. Go down there and do something. Get the federal government down there, drain whatever fucking swamp or whatever is in this picture. I don't know. Maybe that's just a regular swamp in Mississippi. I have no idea. Not going there. And really fucking do it. Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.